Hey everybody, welcome to Santa Barbara Talks with Josh Molina, doing a little shorty here today to talk about what happened at the Santa Barbara City Council meeting yesterday. $32.5 million. This is going to be a media literacy quick conversation. But first, let's watch Santa Barbara City Councilman Michael Jordan and his comments.
Just editorial point for staff. I think you could frame the conversation better. I woke up this morning and all I heard about was $32 million for a bridge. I knew it was like not $32 million because I know the source, but that's inside baseball. I think you need to find a way when you're talking to the media to use the $6 million word that's going to leverage the 32 so they can't use what you said and just say 32. That, of course, has started the onslaught of the 32 millionaires complaining. But it's unfortunate that that happens that way.
Okay, this is a $32.5 million project, and it sounds to me like Councilmember Jordan was saying city staff should spin the amount of money that it's going to cost and how they deal with the media. He's saying that the staff should use the lower number and not focus on the big number. Okay. I'm going to put up two graphics right now that show you the cost of the project. And this is from city sources. This is from the staff report, and this is also from Public Works and their analysis of this new $32.5 million proposed pedestrian and bicycle bridge over Highway 101 to connect Lower East Side residents to the waterfront. Here you go. Do you see what I see? Okay. This is a media literacy conversation. It is damaging. It is hurtful. It is harmful to the media, all journalists. When you blame a journalist or the media for writing a story ahead of a meeting and then saying that that story unnecessarily inflames people who can't read for themselves what's happening. This is the best thing about journalism, proactive journalism. Reading a staff report, talking to some people, looking at the research behind it, and writing a story and saying, all this is going on and this is happening. And by the way, you should pay attention to it at the council meeting. It's a public service. It's like exactly what we do. It's public service, proactive journalism. And it sounds to me like the whole thing got out of hand because one, according to some of the council members, city staff didn't do proper outreach, which I'll get to in a second. And then the story was focusing on the $32.5 million. Here's a line from my story that explains the funding. Okay. Do you see that paragraph? It says very clearly in the story, this is not city funds. It says very clearly that the city plans to apply for grant funding, active transportation program money, SB1 money, right? This is the goal. And this whole report was about connecting the Lower East Side to the waterfront through a proposed pedestrian bridge. And that's what the focus should have been on. And it's just odd and unfortunate that so much criticism was levied at city staff. Jessica Grant, the supervising transportation planner, handled the comments very well. But basically, it turned into a conversation about this, how the city staff didn't do enough outreach when we know that is not correct. That is not true. Now, I'm absolutely in agreement that if there are people out there who read that story and didn't know about this project, then of course, right? That is something that the city and everyone should try to get the messaging out on, okay? But that's exactly what the story was for. That's exactly why we wrote the story. It's because we want to inform people about what's happening. Like this is a good thing. And then the whole point that there wasn't enough engagement going on. I'm just going to play this other clip by Councilmember Jordan real quickly.
One of my pet peeves generally, I think we need to work a little better on what our idea of outreach is and not your idea of outreach. Okay, and we have this conversation constantly.
Okay, there was lots of public outreach. And I'm saying this on to the council members. There's no excuse for you, council members, not to know what is happening as part of a major public works project in your city. There's zero excuse. And it doesn't matter if it's in your district or not in your district. Okay. I understand the public. The public is very busy. They don't have time to focus on these things. That's why I wrote the story at a time. It's part of the public service journalism that we do. But for a council member to tell staff that they need to change the way they do to public outreach, and by the way, city staff members, they don't love anything more than to be told by city council members how to do their jobs. When they walk out of City Hall and go back to their cubicles at 630 Garden Street, they're just like, oh, I'm so happy that Mike Jordan told me I didn't do enough public outreach. I better change that. Not, you're not even their bosses. The council's not even their bosses. The staff is their bosses. So it's just unfortunate because it's just not true. It's not how it played out, but it's easier for elected officials to blame point. What's that whole thing? One finger at you, three back at you. To blame staff, to blame the media, and blame the mysterious, nebulous lack of public outreach. And it's just kind of unfortunate because when you do that, you erode, and it shows like a lack of understanding of the role of journalism. It is 100% a great thing that I wrote that story, that Newshawk wrote that story on the day of the meeting that says this is going to be talked about at the council. It's perfection. It's exactly what we need to be doing. Okay. All journalists need to be doing more proactive journalism because it contributes to the conversation. All right. And so I want to end with actually, I got two more things I want to say. I want to go to Megan Harmon, Councilwoman Megan Harmon's comments, where she kind of puts this whole public outreach thing into perspective. So let's watch this.
And I agree, communication, outreach, we can all always get better at it. And I know that that is really foregrounded in the work that all of us are doing. I would just remind everyone really that this isn't a project that was just conceived of 6 months ago. I mean, this is as Councilmember Sneddon put very well, this is a very long-term, decades-long, iterative conversation, including specific workshops related to this project that date back to before COVID. I mean, this is not a new concept.
Okay. How about that? How about just like saying this is not new and everyone can do better, but instead of pointing the fingers, that's a much more honest and authentic thing. Last thing I want to say is Councilman Oscar Gutierrez hit the nail on the head. There are people who live on the West Side who've never been to the beach, and that's real. That's a fact. And I think a lot of people who have not had those lived experiences, it's tough for them to understand that. It's unfortunate that so much of that meeting was spent criticizing staff on their outreach, criticizing the media for writing a story the day of the event, instead of on the real issue. And the real issue is providing that access to the waterfront for the Lower East Side community. Because if you have to go around Milpas, the collision rate, the traffic accident, the bike pedestrian accident rate is much higher, according to the data the city presented. That's where the focus should be, right? Like, this is a project. City staff has to stay proactive and they have to stay ahead of the game. So when they apply for these grants or when these grants become available, they're ready to go. Okay. So this is a good thing. And it's unfortunate the conversation wasn't about that. Councilman Oscar Gutierrez was exactly right in that this is about connecting communities. This is about inclusion, and this is about removing a barrier for people to get quickly to over Highway 101 into the waterfront. All the questions about the design of the bridge, the look of the bridge, where it's going to go, that's all to be handled later. But the city staff, these working professionals, they have to work every day. They just don't work in election years. They work every day, and they have to set up these projects so that they can apply for grant money at the correct time. Okay. So I just think it's unfortunate that that the conversation was about blame instead of excitement and enthusiasm. Members of the public seem to, the ones who spoke anyway, seem to like this project, and it's very early on in the stage. So just the final points, just don't blame staff, don't blame the media. If there's an error in a story, tell the journalist. My inbox has 0 requests for any correction because there's nothing wrong with the story. But it's this perception that if you're not framing it in a way that doesn't infuriate the public on social media and Facebook, and by the way, if you care what commenters on Facebook say, like, that's not constituent service, okay? All kinds of bad things are said on social media, right? Don't worry about that. The city staff is doing the work. They're professionals and they're not perfect, but they are right more often than they're not. And the idea of a journalist doing a story ahead of time is just exactly what we should be doing. So everybody should be taking more personal accountability and stop blaming everyone else. And particularly in an election year, it's very frustrating, particularly for those who've been around a while and have seen it. All right. If you're new to this podcast, please hit subscribe. Visit SantaBarbaraTalks.com. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. And yeah, that's it.